What is up, everybody? Let's spin some yarn. I was in a conversation with Paul Kingsbury. I think we were on the phone about something completely unrelated, and ended up talking a lot about how it seems more and more difficult to reach people through like the traditional means, right? So he's the director of outreach at the U.S. Naval Institute, which is technically not a like official Navy organization, even though it was founded by a bunch of active duty Navy officers that like Albert Mahan and all them back in the day, like sitting around trying to make the Navy better, like just a bunch of leaders sitting around in a room basically think tanking, and it developed into this organization that you see now, and they do a lot of different things. But he's been charged with trying to get more people to write in like the essay contest and contribute to Proceedings magazine, and he's also behind the second edition of the Chief Petty Officer's Guide, and he's working on a Petty Officer's Guide. He's working on an update to the Blue Jackets manual, all kinds of stuff, and that's what USNI does. Like their press. The USNI Press does like a lot of the books that you think are just like official Navy publications, which like they are, but they kind of contract, I guess, with USNI to do those things. And he just finds it challenging getting the younger generation to like go buy in and go do those things, for I guess and some of it, the frustrations are coming from elsewhere, but we just got into this discussion about how it feels like, and obviously this doesn't apply to everyone, but it feels like there's a more mile wide, inch deep approach to leadership development. Like that a lot of people digest a lot of material, and what they get from it, if they digest the significant parts of the material at all, is what you see on like these memes that get shared. It's like a little leadership quote, a little like one-liner. A lot of times I find that they're like inverse sentences where it's like stuff like what comes easy won't last, what lasts won't come easy, stuff like that. And there's a lot of other, there's one that I literally just Googled leadership quotes, and I'm looking at Google Images just to give some examples of some of the stuff I'm talking about. Not that there's not ways to use these things, and I'll get to that in a second, and like that there's not some value, but like, it's like there's this John C. Maxwell one, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And I'm laughing because like, I get it. So John C. Maxwell is an industry. He is selling things. Not that I'm sure the man's passionate about leadership, but I don't, quotes like that I feel like are designed to sell a book. But not, when you read it and you hear it, it's not that it's inaccurate so much as it's vague and directionless to me. There's not, it's a mile wide and an inch deep. And what frustrates me about it is what I see on social media, and I hope I'm more wrong than I think I am, but I don't think I am, is it seems like leadership development has turned into like a social media influence-based like propaganda. I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like people want to be social media influencers by doing leadership development stuff, like creating content. And I say content, I'm using that term loosely. I mean, like just sharing memes and posts and stuff. And I'm torn on it because I feel like I'm going into this and everything I'm saying is it's implying that those things are negative. I'm torn on it because I feel like it's a mile wide and an inch deep, not because I have a problem with people trying to leverage a platform that junior sailors are on all the time to reach them in the way that we're charged to as leaders. So like I follow a lot of people on social media, and you see like Jay Bell, real active on social media, uses it a ton. Grant Kahn on social media uses it a ton to accomplish the leadership stuff that they're trying to accomplish. There's a lot of people out there doing it, and you see more of it. I feel like COVID kind of kickstarted a lot of the, like, people probably had ideas in the back of their head, and then they were remotely working from home, had more time. A lot of people starting podcasts, a lot of people starting YouTube channels, a lot of people more active on social media doing those types of things. And what's troublesome is that it feels so shallow, and I don't mean like that's not a personality trait when I say shallow. Like, I'm not attacking people's like character. I'm just saying like it literally feels shallow, like the mile wide inch deep analogy, in that it doesn't like it, okay, so you read these vague directionless quotes or vague directionless social media posts, and then where do you go from there? How do you learn more? Where do you dig deeper? And so some people are sharing other people's things a lot, and like using social media as maybe just a jump off point. So like you see somebody sharing like a Simon Sinek thing or a John C. Maxwell thing or I'm a big Jocko Willink fan. And it's like the discussion doesn't feel like it goes further. And then recently I've mentioned a few times this new Ask the Chief Facebook group. If you're not familiar, it's they kind of tried to recreate basic mentoring with more chief centric, more like, hey, we're going to bring all these chiefs in first, kind of explain to them what the goals are, and then start inviting junior sailors in. It's a private group. All the posts are required to be approved. It went off the rails anyway, and then it looks like they're trying to refocus it now. They just post like an SOP and rules, and there's an anonymous posting function, which I think is really cool, kind of like Reddit, but it's almost like we could just go to Reddit. But anyway, they're trying to make it something valuable. I just don't know if it's the place, and also, so I see the conversations trying to happen in that space. And Facebook, I don't know why, it just never seems to work. Whereas if you go on Reddit, I feel like the anonymity is the missing piece on platforms like Facebook, which they did, again, add this, like, you could anonymously ask a question in this Facebook group. I don't know if you can anonymously comment, but again, it's like, just go to Reddit. Like, it's the Wild West, so there's that. Like, you got to go in there with some thick skin and understand that sometimes you're going to get brutalized, much like a senior chief who does a leadership development podcast and is trying to get through to junior sailors. Like, there's some people on there that tried to eat my soul, and it's like, well, surprise, I don't have one because I've been submarining for 20 years, but it's like, you're not going to... Better people have tried and failed to tear me down and like bring me down a couple notches. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings, I promise, no matter what you say. But within those attacks that did happen, the two things I saw happen. One, generally before I got there, like, because I'm not constantly on Reddit, but I get alerts to let me know people commented on something I posted or whatever. And then I'll get an alert. It's not as good as certain social media platforms at letting me know when I have like private messages and stuff. But anyway, I get alerts when I get messages or whatever. So by the time I get there after work or whatever, and I see kind of what people have been discussing, when there's somebody trying to troll me or attack what I'm doing, generally two things have happened. One, a whole bunch of people have already come to my defense. So it almost feels like it's been recognized and validated as someone trolling me because they either didn't listen to the episode and just are jumping to conclusions and making assumptions about who I am and what I'm doing, or they just wanted to just take a dump on a senior chief, which I get. We're easy targets for a whole lot of reasons that I feel like most listeners understand. But and I can take it. I'll carry that load, whatever. But also the dialogue that happens there is much more honest, even though there can be an edge to it. It's much more nuanced. You get much longer posts. People reference things, drop links in there as almost like they're citing like research or some kind of like qualitative or quantitative analysis of something, you know, like the articles to things that have happened or whatever. So I find that it's much more nuanced. It's much more valuable. I just don't see those things happening on social media. I don't see that happening in the comments on an Instagram video that someone posts. You can get into the lane where on the last episode we talked about the TikTok chief thing, and I guess she apparently, I haven't seen it, she apparently responded to some kind of social media post somewhere explaining she was trying to make herself more accessible to her sailors. That idea where, I mean, detach that from the TikTok chief thing because that's another conversation, but that idea of going on social media and using those platforms to humanize yourself and make yourself more accessible to sailors is great. And I feel like in our day and age, it's almost necessary. You see the CNO and McPon and all these people doing it. The fleets are pretty active on social media. All these people are trying to reach these sailors and be more active. And you know, you got the Navy app locker now. You've got all this stuff that they understand what the most efficient mechanism. Well, I don't even know if it's the most efficient mechanism because that's why we're having this conversation, but it's the easiest. It's the path of least resistance to capture the attention of a junior sailor. What I think we're finding is that it's not working the way we thought. And there might be more analysis required on how to do it efficiently. And this might just sound like me saying that I'm doing it right and everybody else is doing it wrong. I'm finding success. That is true. Like I definitely feel like it took a while to earn the trust of a lot of people, junior sailors primarily. But being willing to have long form, in-depth, nuanced conversation and doing it from a place of like open-mindedness and just like a flexibility to be convinced that I might be wrong about something, just being open to like, hey, I'm talking to Dan, the first class that I talked to a bunch, and he convinces me, like he argues something, or I'm talking to Nick, like EODC, and he's talking to me and he's arguing his side or his opinion or whatever, being open to the fact that he might be right. He's a smart guy. Like he might be right and I might be wrong, and that's fine. That's how you learn. That's how you evolve and mature as a leader. You put more tools in your toolbox, per se. It's the way in which you're going to become more effective is allowing yourself to be wrong, allowing yourself to discover that there's a lot of leaders out there that are doing certain things in certain areas better than you, or it's just another tool that you didn't have. Maybe you're not necessarily wrong. You just didn't have that ability because you didn't even you don't know what you don't know. You didn't even recognize it was a possibility. You're like, man, I never thought about that way. That's a really great point. And sometimes it is that you're wrong. Like I was convinced for a long period of time that there should be a minimum time and service requirement for somebody to make chief. And then Nick, in a manner of speaking, dismantled that argument a little bit for me. And I was like, maybe I'm wrong. And I'm still back and forth about it. And I think you could design a system that can do both, but like early promote people that have demonstrated that they're ready, and the broad standard is that you gotta 12 years or whatever it is, minimum time and service requirement, unless you went to a board and met all the requirements for promoting earlier than that or something. I don't know. But that's I'm veering off track a little bit. But back to the kind of meme culture, like this fortune cookie wisdom. I don't think you're going to get any profound leadership development or provide any profound leadership development by leading with one-liners. Like I don't think there's a lot of value in it. I think there's definitely, you could get some inspiration. It could be a starting point for sure. But there's got to be more there. There's got to be more to it. So in doing this type of thing, like if you're one of the people that's super active on social media And like, you can just share, I share things I think are fun. Like on my personal Facebook page, all it is email with pictures to me, where I keep in touch with people that are all over the place. And then like junior sailors, it's their mechanism to reach out to me, like from wherever they are in the world and ask for help. But outside of that, like I share things that I think are funny. Occasionally post pictures of furniture that I build. That's about it. Like I'm not super active on there. And I like use it to follow what's going on in the Navy, and like that's where I track like all the major Navy pages, because I'm not smart enough to figure out how to get the podcast page to do it. Because you can like follow people and whatever from the actual like business account that I have for the podcast, but I don't know how to I haven't found a functional app that'll like let me scroll through a feed and do all those things, so that all I got to do is look at Navy stuff, and then I'd probably never log on to my personal Facebook page. I would just use Messenger. But anyway, I don't think you're going to do anything meaningful by doing that, unless you're just doing it because you just want to share it, just because like, hey, I thought this was cool. That's kind of what social media is for. So that's not where I have an issue. Where I have an issue is people that are making themselves almost public figures. And it's like, it's a mile wide and an inch deep. Like you're putting yourself out there as this resource for leadership development without actually providing any leadership development. I feel like that's what that kind of stuff does. And it's like, there's just got to be more. And so if you're doing that, go do something that's a little more meaningful. Like go get on, even if it's, you don't have to start a podcast or YouTube channel or whatever, or like some long form conversation. You don't have to write a book. Like go on Reddit and talk to these sailors that are there. Go put yourself out there in that manner, like Grant Kahn did. 'Cause that dude made a difference. That dude left a legacy, and he's transitioning out of the military for medical reasons. I hope to God he doesn't stop being involved. Now you just got more bandwidth, bro. Like start a podcast, start a YouTube channel, do all, like, don't ever not be an advocate for those types of things. Like I'm probably about to retire for a lot of medical reasons, and I plan to just jump in. Like I'm excited at the idea of how much time and bandwidth I'll have to devote to this and where it could possibly go from there. So for the type of people that are out there doing those types of things, do more. If you're going to put yourself out there as that type of a figure, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. There's got to be something beyond the 100-word social media post, if that, and the little like catchy one-liner image or meme or whatever that you either shared or created. There's got to be more than that. Otherwise you're not really doing anything. And then you're like trying to sell t-shirts or just do whatever else. It's like you're not. There's got to be more. There's got to be more substance. And I'm not saying these people are probably strong leaders in their messes, on their ships and at their units, and that's great. But when you're putting yourself out there as like a leadership development resource, where's the resource? Like where do I, unless you're privately talking to a bunch of people, like you're putting out there that they can contact you and you can be that resource in that way. But it's like, there's a lot of ways to do it where there's engagement and discussion happening, and that you elaborate on all those points, or that like make a blog and just like write a longer article, and then the one-liner meme thing and the social media post is like hey, there's a new blog post up where you can explore this point further. There's got to be more. Or just provide a resource, like a link to a book, link to a YouTube video, something. Reddit threads. God, they're valuable. There's just so many ways to do it. And I feel like I've almost went on too long talking about the people that are putting this out there, because the other part is the people that are digesting this material is thinking to themselves that that's leadership development, that like you're learning something new, or like you see one of those things and you're like, I feel inspired. And it's like, okay, so you feel motivated. Neat. That's an extremely perishable thing. And it's certainly helpful. It's something that I believed in for a long time, until I got into the like extreme ownership books, Jocko Willink stuff, which led me to David Goggins. If you haven't listened to Can't Hurt Me, stop this podcast, because that offers infinitely more value. I highly recommend the audiobook because it's narrated by the author, but in between there's like this little podcast form discussion between David Goggins and the author that elaborates on something. It's an incredible audiobook. But in that book, he talks about the difference between motivation and discipline. And you've probably, if you go find his social media stuff, he puts out videos a lot that are motivational type stuff, but there's also a lot more to David Goggins than just him doing that. So he puts the substance out there as well through the book, through he goes on like long form podcasts all the time. Like he does a lot of this stuff. So there's a lot of material out there from him, but he talks about how motivation is effectively invaluable when it is faced with adversity or failure of any kind or something to that effect. Is like when you wake up in the morning and you don't feel motivated, then what? Do you just not do the thing? Like, when you go to work and it's time to start chiefing and you're not motivated to do so, and a situation presents itself that you need to chief super hard, do you just not do it because you're not motivated? Of course not. Not if you're doing it right. You have the discipline to force yourself to do the right thing anyway, and to put yourself in front of the fire coming at your sailors, or to get involved and help them get what they need or whatever. Discipline is a lot more valuable. Not to say motivation doesn't have value at all, but if I got to pick between the two, I'm picking discipline 100% of the time. And that's why. I think people need the discipline to dig deeper, find leadership development resources that have substance. Go actually read Simon Sinek's books. If nothing else, go watch his TED Talks. Instead of the short little clips you see on YouTube or the memes that are shared with all his quotes, which a lot of them are great. But go watch his TED Talk. The Start With Why, or What's Your Why? I think it's Start With Why. It's amazing. Like, he's got a lot of really great stuff, but if all you're getting is like a super short clip or of like an interview he did, or like a meme with a quote from him, that's not substance. This is not substantial. Like, you're not improving, you're not maturing, you're not developing. Like, go read his books, or whoever's books, like whatever speaks to you. Doesn't have to be him. Doesn't have to be Jocko. Doesn't even have to be me. Like, yeah, go find something that speaks to you and dive into that material to get some actual substantial leadership development out of that. Because like nowadays it feels like there's a shift in how this type of media is digested. It's like everybody wants to get everything, including their news and everything else, through social media or through their phones, at least through an app, through whatever, which is fine. Cause I find that I can get a lot more air quotes reading done by listening to audiobooks in the car, or when I'm working out, or when I'm sitting here doing podcast stuff and I'm not recording or listening to anything. If I'm just like working on the website or doing like just like some or I do my homework, whatever. If I'm not, I don't have to sit there and read for those things. It's like I can focus on, I can like listen to a book while I do some other task, while I'm cleaning the house. You know, it allows you to digest more material. Sometimes I get distracted, so it's like I do like to, when I can, sit down and read a physical book, but I'm also old, so there's that. But yeah, man, I think that we need to explore the different ways in which the stuff's delivered and the way it's consumed, and what's the most valuable way for us to reach these people and make those things known and share resources instead of easily digestible social media posts that don't, like, while they're easily digestible, they're also easily forgotten and don't add a ton of value. Like, there's gotta be more. Link to a resource. And for the people that are seeking leadership development, because one of the things from this platform that blew me away was, like, I thought it would be helpful when I first started doing it. I didn't think I'd get the reaction that I have from a lot of people of like, oh my, thank God someone's doing something like this, because there's a demand signal for this type of discussion. There's a demand signal for leadership development resources in the Navy. And I think that there's a demand for something authentic that is also conveniently digestible through their cell phones. And a lot of the tools offered by the Navy, so like having a frank conversation about the types of things you see in Full Speed Ahead, right? Like the Full Speed Ahead training videos, like no one relates to that. They're actors. It's weird and doesn't feel genuine or authentic at all. It's the conversations that happen are not the types of conversations that happen on board ships and at units. Like it's just everybody's like zoning out 30 seconds in and eye rolling the whole time if they're even paying attention. It's not good training. And it's not like those people didn't put in effort. I'm sure they did a lot of research and used a bunch of smart people to put it together. It's just there's a way that you connect to sailors, and that's not it. So that's something that needs to be considered too. But I think I've ran on long enough about all this. It's just something that's been eating at me a little bit after that conversation with Paul about how he says people would rather buy a t-shirt and a coin than a book. And that's just where we are. And I was like, you're not wrong. Sort of. Like, because I just think it's the paradigm shift happened and some of us got left behind. And I don't know if I'm quite keeping up. I think I'm trying. But like, yeah, I mean, a lot of these conversations that old timers used to have in the mess or on the mess decks or in the smoke pit are happening on Reddit, or they're happening on WhatsApp, like between a shop, like, or Signal. And I'm probably missing something because, again, like I don't know that I'm even up on a lot of this stuff. Like I only know about some of these things because somebody said, "Hey, you should jump on Reddit." I'm like, "What's that?" Like I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was. And now I love it. Now I try to be on there as much as I can, because there's a lot of value there. And same thing, like I get pointed to books, videos, resources, like, thanks to Jeff Bayless. I mean, he gives me a freaking reading list every time we talk, but, Brene Brown is like one of my favorite authors now, and her videos are, she did a TED Talk, highly recommend it. She's a social worker and a teacher and an author, and just go listen to her material on vulnerability. Good Lord. Changed my life. Like it's incredible, but I had to go digest all that material. I've listened to, I believe, 2 of her books now. I'm trying to get through all of them, and I'll probably listen to them more than once. I watched the TED Talk. She had a Netflix special as well. Just ton of speaking engagement. She's got a ton of YouTube content. It's really, really great. Podcasts, which I haven't listened to her podcast. I actually just found out she had one like yesterday or the day before, so I'm about to check that out. But yeah, these are the things. Go seek them out. I think that matters a lot, and I think in the environment that we're in, which was the whole genesis of this podcast, it's like you're gonna have to do a lot of these things on your own until the Navy starts providing a resource, which I think we're trending in the right direction with NLIC and the ELD courses. We shall see. COVID kind of derailed the rollout. So once everything starts to go to a new normal, whatever that looks like, hopefully those things roll out and get more robust and start fixing a lot of these issues. But hope is not a plan. So we'll see. But yeah, I think that's it. If you need anything from us, as always, hit us up. don'tgiveuptheshipodcast@gmail.com. You can Facebook message us, Don't Give Up the Ship Podcast, or you can DM me on Instagram or Reddit at dgutspodcast. There's dgutspodcast on Reddit. Hit us up in the subs. I'm on our Navy, the dgutspodcast sub, all that stuff. Yeah, if you want to support us, dgutspodcast.com/shop, pick something up. You get something out of it, and it helps us pay the bills. We are not for profit, but it helps keep the lights on, pay for all the subscription fees and such. Yeah, and that's it. That's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't give up the ship.